Boom. Can we start?
Wow.
Thank you. See you in a bit.
Thank you.
Good man. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Let's Face It podcast. Today I am joined by myself and we kind of done this purposely. We're recording here before another podcast, and I think that we have only done one solo episode, maybe two.
One, maybe two, yeah.
In the last while, and I think that there's a lot of people writing in and messaging about, you know, my side of things. Even with from Danielle's podcast last week, you know, some of the things that I was saying, and some things that I've maybe learnt, and tools that I've gathered over the last not just year and a half, but let's face it, but on this journey of recovery and self-discovery for the last 4 years. And I think maybe I have a wee bit more to bring and a wee bit more to offer in terms of that, not just going on and maybe talking about my story, if you like, because everyone has a story. Everyone has had setbacks and different things like that, but it's what we do with it and how we're going to learn, how we're going to grow and how we're going to evolve. So today we're going to talk about some wee things, because the last time we caught up, someone, I was actually I think I talked about it on this podcast. I was reading something and it said, if you didn't laugh at yourself a year ago, then you're not doing it right. And it's funny because probably the last time I done something like this with Sean, I probably look back now and be like, Jesus, I can't believe I said that, or I thought that I knew everything then. And I think that the big lesson for me anyway is that we never reach a destination of learning or growing or evolving or being content or being vulnerable or authentic or anything like this. It's always like a work in progress. So yeah, and constantly learning. So that's basically what we're gonna make this a wee theme of. So say, like, I've just became 4 years in June there in recovery, so we're going to do 4 key lessons and learnings for the last 4 years of recovery. Sean's in the background there. He's gonna throw out a couple of things to me. We don't really have much planned, so in terms of questions or anything like that, but we're going to work off these 4 key sort of pillars and see where it takes us over the next half an hour, whatever it is. There's some questions there Sean has wrote down we got from Instagram and stuff like that too, so he'll fire away with them. And yeah, let me know what you think, and if you think this is a good idea, then we'll keep doing it. We'll throw up a midweek one, and just wee things to take away. And before we go on, this is what's worked for me. I'm not painting everyone with the same brush, everyone who's in recovery with the same brush, but this is what's worked for me and the learnings that I've took. You can take some of them, you can take none of them, you can take all of them, whatever. But by no means is this in any way me telling you or even advising you what to do. This is just what's worked for me in the journey in the last couple of years. So the four key lessons and learnings of recovery that I've sort of came to the conclusion of over the last 4 years is the work is ongoing, as I said there. It's the journey with no destination. Taking responsibility. If it's to be, then it's up to me, essentially. Who am I doing it for is, I suppose, in that bracket. And nothing changes if nothing changes. Number 3 is your vibe attracts your tribe in terms of community, friendships and stuff like that. And number 4, the power of vulnerability. And we'll maybe look at even not just me being vulnerable, but, you know, providing this platform of a podcast where our guests have come on over the last 18 months and been very, very vulnerable, which has been powerful too. So I'll maybe start off with with number 1. The work is ongoing, and we're I suppose we're constantly faced with new challenges. And I suppose, Sean, like you've seen firsthand,
Yeah.
especially since the last time we sat down together about different challenges and different obstacles. Like I just come in the door there and I a wee bit triggered with things that have went on. Not went on, just something happened this morning, like, and I was just a wee bit through and trying to get stuff sorted, and you come in and you're like, right, it's okay, and you give me a hug. And it's nice to have that. It really is. But like, you've seen that over the last while, the very fact that sometimes I maybe can get triggered, and sometimes people think that we talked about this before, or we done it for a reel on Instagram that we're going to put out during the week about it's okay for you because you're doing this and doing that and doing that, but I still need to put me and my recovery and going to therapy and stuff like at the very top of my list. Like it's would you have that perception of people?
What, that you've got that all sorted out? Yeah, I think it's very easy when you're on a journey yourself. You maybe look at people further along that journey, and you know, we've talked about it 100 times on here, but social media is a killer. And when you see someone posting about being further along on that journey, the first thing that comes to your head is envy, and it's like thinking that, you know, they had it easier than me, or it's a lot easier for them. You know, you just make these scenarios up in your head, but you don't know how that person got the A to B. You're judging them before you know what way they are, and you assume that because they've got to that milestone ahead of you, that everything's perfect for them. You know, so it is very easy to fall in the trap of thinking like that,
and that world of like comparing. And it's something that probably I've done a lot, and that's a really good point. Like, I've done a lot in terms of putting people on pedestals and thinking that I'll never be as good as them, or they're more like, I'm less, you know, I'm just not as good as them, is because of maybe where I come from or what I'm doing, or maybe my title or my role, or I think that's the world we live in terms of comparing and feeling not valued. But one of the biggest things that I've learnt in terms of values, in terms of the work being ongoing, is that I can't seek value from the external. So I can't go and be like, if I'm friends with X, then that's going to make me happy. If X says to me that, don't know, you're a brilliant person and it's class what you're doing, I can't rely on that to make me happy. So where can I get happiness from, or where can I get validation from, or where can I feel good enough? Where can that self-worth become like, you know what, I'm comfortable in my own skin? The only place that can come from is from within, in my opinion. So yes, we're going to talk about maybe the community and the friendships and the different things and vulnerability with different people, but until we're comfortable in our own skin and value ourselves, then we're going to keep looking for validation in the external.
Yeah.
So I probably needed you to always be like, oh, that was a brilliant podcast, you were really good at them questions, or, you know, you really got a lot out of him or her or whoever, for me to be like, oh, Jesus, I'm good at my job. But, and that's only a small example, but if I can be like, do you know what, I actually believe in what I'm doing, if I have the right values, if I have the right, you know, if I'm living off, and we'll talk about it later on, about this triangle of life that I have, I suppose, like, if I'm going in the right direction and living from this soul level that I've spoke about, then that brings me a lot of validation and a lot of, I feel like I belong here.
Yeah.
Because I think that for so long in my life, I felt like I've been a part of stuff and teams and friend groups, but I was never alone, but I never felt so lonely, because I always felt like an outcast, because I didn't feel comfortable deep inside my own skin. So it's that journey of finding out who you are, what you stand for, your values, maybe your purpose in life, all these things that help you then connect with the person you are. Because many times they will look in the mirror and looking back and you're going like, Jesus, I look kind of funny, or what is going on here? And that's just what I look like on the external. So imagine actually going even deeper than that and getting the book, like whatever, and being like, right, how do I actually feel? Who am I as a person? What are my triggers? What annoys me? Whatever, all these things that, and really, really being honest, that is such a hard thing to do, but it's it's nearly like it's the first step in discovering who you are, like, and where you want to go in life.
For me, like, self-reflection
Yeah.
is so important for just, and I take it sort of scenario to scenario. When something really agitates me, or like I get that bit of a confidence knock about things,
Yeah.
it's always a case of, perspective, and then thinking, why do I feel like that? I mean, we had a scenario a couple of weeks ago at your live event.
We
know what I mean? Where, like, which completely knocked my confidence in being able to do my job and stuff like that. And I just needed to sit myself down and go, well, like, do I know what I'm doing? Am I confident in myself? Am I good at this? Do I need somebody to tell me that I'm good at this? And I just had to tell myself, yeah, you know what you're doing. Like, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. So once I got over that, it was a case of going out and doing the job.
And what a job you done. So let's take that scenario of maybe feeling inadequate, maybe feeling like we're not good enough, and it's like, right, these thoughts that are coming into my head based on someone else's actions. By the way, before all the more important for having someone to have your back, and not saying, but like,
no, absolutely.
And I think that's back what's we're going on to at the end about the community and about how important that sort of vibe, attracting your tribe and stuff like that is. But anyway, so these thoughts that you had, we call that imaginative functioning. So it's like creating scenarios in your head that aren't even true. So if these thoughts are coming into my head and then channeling and starting to believe them, then how is that going to make us feel? So instead of channeling them, how can we challenge them and be like, hold on, actually, what are the facts here? So for you last week, right, have I done events before? Yes. Have they been successful? Yes. Has there ever been a problem? No. Is one person, his ego and his whatever issues he has going on, getting in the way? Yes. So what is really going on here is the question that I always ask myself, and it's like, that is someone else trying to put a dampener on you getting a result. So back to what we say loads of times across the podcast, and like, probably live in a world where people want to see you do well until you do well, and then people kind of get jealous. So all the more important then for back to the community, back to the friendships, back to the people who have your back, who want to see you do well, because then we can challenge that together and be like, yeah, no, it's not happening, because we have values and we know what we are, and even if things had went wrong, I still wouldn't have cared, because we stuck to our values and stuck to what we're about, and us being a team is more important than someone else's negative opinion. Yeah,
that was so important, and it's just that combination of things of remembering who you are, evaluating what's agitating you, trying to tackle that, and then having the support around you.
Yeah.
Gets you through a situation like that.
Yeah, and it's like, how many of us go through situations like that every day where we're probably listening to the wrong people's advice or the wrong people's opinions, and it really drags us down. It's so important. So that, number one, the work is ongoing. The journey with no destination. The day you think, I suppose you've made it, the day you think you know everything, is the day, again, for me, that I need to right, okay, what do I need to reassess here? What do I need to reevaluate? What do I need to keep working on? And also enjoying it. Like, I've probably got into like cycles of like, maybe like periods of taking it so seriously because I don't want to mess up. Like trying to do everything right, trying not to let people down, because it's against what I'm up. No, just different things, and then I forget that there's a bit of living to be done in terms of having the crack, and and I'm probably being hard on myself a wee bit here, but it's the truth. Going out and having the crack and doing things that you enjoy. I've probably been caught up in the I cannot mess this up, rather than what can I do, and that's what I'm stepping into there in the last probably 6 months. Like, year probably, like let's spread our wings here and see what happens, and we're going to make mistakes and we're going to F things up, but that's okay, because if you learn from them, then
before that, do you think you had a wee bit of like the stabilizers on? You know what I mean? You were surviving rather than
flourishing.
Yeah.
And I think that I probably think, being totally honest, I probably let my story or things that happened to me. Now I wouldn't be like a pity party or anything like that. I'm not like that, but I probably let it define me. So whenever people come and say to you, will you come and tell your story? It's like, at the start it was no problem, even up until like 6 months ago. No problem, I'll come and tell I'll tell you my story and all, but it's only a story. Do you know what I mean? I probably got caught up in that, Sean, a lot. Whereas now, I think after going and doing my coaching and mentoring and really stepping into that world, the progressive world, in terms of like, okay, I like public speaking, I like doing it. And I've no problem telling my story, because I know that there's people probably sitting in the room need to hear it. But I love then going further. Like, okay, like this, what can we do with the story? What can we do with hardship? What can we do with setbacks? What tools can we implement here or there? So yes, I think that's part of me growing as a person, and not being defined by okay, this is what happened, this is where you are, and this is what you need to. This is just it. So, you know, I want to spread my wings a wee bit, and I want to dive into the coaching and publicise that a wee bit more. Which, you know, I'm doing now, but I just haven't like sort of publicised it or put it out there through Let's Face It. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to do that, and not move away from my story, because I own it and I love it, because it's made me the person I am today. But in terms of a more progressive role within society, like how can you help people then move forward? That's what probably gets me out of bed in the morning now, rather than fuck, I'm gonna go tell my story and it'll help someone. No, I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna say how maybe I get out of it and how I keep working, and I can now help you do that and progress and help you get a job, or help you with relationships or friendships or anything like that, and be proud of the impact that I'm making, rather than just standing up and telling this is what happened to me and poor me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So part of that's, we'll probably finish off number one there about the work being ongoing. That's part of my ongoing work, that maybe it's the journey with like loads of country roads, and there might be a load of sheep in the middle of some road, and you have to stop for half an hour and wait till the sheep clear, and then you go on again, and the next thing there might be an old farmer's gate man opening, you have to get out of the car and move the gate, and there's loads of obstacles, but having that time to stop and wait for the sheep to move are probably the biggest learnings of the ongoing work, because then as you spoke about there, the reflection and stuff, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
And
it takes us on to taking responsibility. So you said a quote here, if it's to be, it's up to me. So go into that a wee bit more.
I think that taking responsibility is the biggest thing anyone can do, for whether it's recovery, whether it's you, Sean, going out on your own, whether like no one's going to make you go out on your own but you. You know, no one's going to make me stop drinking but me. So has people helped you, facilitated you go out on your own and give you confidence? Or absolutely, yes. Has people helped me in my recovery and trying to get off? 100%. So who am I doing it for? Do you know what I mean? Who am I in this? Who am I doing this for? Am I doing it for, you know, does Eamon have a part to play in that? Yes, of course, because he's my best mate, and it would be no good for Eamon if I was sitting in a pub every day, would it, Eamon? It'd be crap, because then we wouldn't get to go out and have fun and get burgers and coke and ice cream and have a crack and listen to music and dance and go to the beach and kiss, and what else do we do? buy books, and we can't sense you, so we can't disclose anymore. But so absolutely, he's part of that. What's that? What are you doing? Ice cream? Ice cream as well. So is he a part of that? Yes, of course. But like even Granny, even different things like being Antrim, being back, like all these things, of course, they're a part of me wanting to be better and be a better person. But if I don't do it for myself, then what's the point? What's the point? And the amount of people that I've met over the last four years, Sean, and it's like, don't know, I want to get off the drink because she's doing my head in. Or I want to get off the drink because I want to see the kids at the weekends. Or I want to get... Just like... And I'm like, no, we want to get off the drink because we want to become better people. So as a result of us becoming better people, then I'm going to have him in my life no matter what, because I'm a better person. So he's just going to 100%. Okay. So if you become a better person, not become a better, maybe that's the wrong way of putting it, because I believe people who are caught up in addiction are all good people. It's just bad things have kind of happened and bad things have been put in their way. They've been dealt hard cards. So not, I don't mean they're bad people. I don't mean it like that, but to be in a better position to then be responsible for other people, say, is the first step. You have to take responsibility for yourself, and you have to want to change. Because if you don't want to change, then what's the point? Like, because nothing changes if nothing changes. Like, what if you don't see or don't recognize that there might be a problem or there might be an issue, and you don't want to do anything about it, then it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
To change. Like,
if you don't want help, then you can't be helped.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and even there's a big. I think that we can put things in place for people, for help to be more accessible. Mm-hmm. So for help to be more colourful, for help to be celebrated, for help to be good crack, for help to be, a thing, as in, it's really good to be vulnerable and really good to open up. I think that why can we not make that cool, right? But so we can put things in place, but ultimately you're right. I think that it all boils back to self, and if I can't notice or recognise that I need to change for me and my lifestyle and my future, then it's very, very difficult for someone else to do it for you. Like, what's the old saying? You can bring a horse to water.
Yeah.
Can't make it drink. What do you think of that?
Yeah. It sums that up perfect.
Yeah, and but it's like... But even like in recovery, like there's a lot of guilt as well. So there's guilt as in like people feel guilty, so they feel like they need to go and get help. And there's like this mixed thing of motivation. And I've talked about it before, about motivation only being a feeling. Like motivation isn't actually a thing, in my opinion. Like it comes and goes, but a self-discipline a thing, absolutely. You know what I mean? Is being consistent a thing, absolutely. Is living, maybe breaking it all down and living one day at a time a thing, absolutely, 100%. But being motivated and being like, right, I'm going to get this and I'm going to change my life in 30 days and this is going to be it and I'm going to take over the world and I'm going to... It's nonsense. Because that motive, you can't live at that high all the time. Like, what happens if it doesn't work out? Yeah. So if something doesn't work out for me that I have planned out, is it a kick in the teeth? Of course, but if I'm taking responsibility and being like, what's really going on, then I can bring it back to me and back to the start. Okay, I've been on a journey. What have I learned? What went wrong for me to not meet that goal or not meet that target? Okay, well then let's try and do it again. But if I'm just haven't done that work, then if I'm just living off this fucking motivation thing of like, I'm going to rip everything apart and this is going to be brilliant, then where are you as a person? Where are your values? Where's the inner work? Where's living at a soul level from a head level? Where's all that? And that's probably what I've get that I've learned a lot in the last 4 years about that, about having a strong foundation, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Strong foundation, so whenever you do meet the sheep in the middle of the road or the farmer's gate, then I know how to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think guilt is a spiral, you know, because I know, like, we're talking about it there in, like, the theme of, like, recovery and addiction and stuff, and obviously that's a lot more serious, but even just from a motivation or as somebody who's ambitious, from that sort of standpoint, guilt is feeling like, you know, people are behind you and people are expecting something of you, and when you don't put the work in, you go, I don't want to face people seeing that I didn't accomplish that, or that I, you know, you won't get out of bed because you're like, you know, I've already messed up. And unless you say to yourself, right, scratch that, move on, like, it starts now. A wee mantra I have is, in 6 months, none of this is going to matter. You know? So, like, instead of sitting about lingering in your own guilt that, you know, you weren't disciplined, or, you know, that you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve, like, you know, start fresh, start anew, and you're only going to feel more guilt if you don't start again now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think we talked about this before, about the old Chinese proverb. It's like the best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago. The best time to plant the tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so, but you said a couple of things there. So the guilt and people's expectations of you.
Yeah.
So, and I've sort of witnessed this a lot in the last couple of weeks. With sport, and it's like working with people and within a team environment, and it's like there's a lot of pressure on them because of maybe their parents, or maybe because their parents were good players, and they have to be good players, and they maybe have to go home and they're talking about hurling all the time, or football or soccer or boxing or whatever it is all the time, and it's like that pressure. So there's external expectations, and then you have internal expectations, and these are all sort of and then when it gets to the actual performance, it's like, shit, I'm a freeze. And it's like, because we're worried about all these high expectations we have of ourselves and other people have of us, and it's like, back to what we were talking about, who are you doing it for? So are you doing it to make them happy? So basically, what is your why, if you want to get into it? So if my why is Eamon, say, then I'm doing it for Eamon. So I'm doing that to keep Eamon happy. So, but what about me? Do you know what I mean? Like, so, a bit like what I said there. So if I'm doing this for me, then is Eamon going to benefit as a result of it? Yes. So he can be part of it, but if it doesn't then all boil back to me, not just talking about you or whoever, then we're always there's going to be a missing link somewhere.
Yeah.
Because we can't fulfill everyone's expectations of us, because it's impossible, in my opinion. The other thing was, that other people's opinion, and we always talk about that, is none of our business. I like what you said there about the scenario of 6 months. So if I have a problem and it's like, okay, will this really matter in 6 months' time? Probably not, right? Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
And it's like back to what I've talked about a few times, like trying to be present. And if you've one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, you're pissing all over the day, and it's like, right, okay, what can I do today to help this situation? And I know it's very hard to live in the day. I get that, because it's like, with like things to plan for and all. Yeah. I get all that, but in terms of our feelings, in terms of our head, in terms of us running away with scenarios and stuff, like, it's like bringing it back and being like, right, boom, what can I do today to impact this?
Yeah.
If I can't do anything, then control the controllables and all that.
Like, I'm going to tell you a scenario that stressed me out yesterday, and I felt like I was letting everybody down, and you're going to hear how trivial it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a podcast to record at 6 o'clock, yesterday, right? And I went to myself at lunchtime yesterday. I was like, you know what? I get my work done here. I'm gonna go to barber's, get the haircut. I was like, I need to leave myself a good bit of time, so as I can get down there for 6. Didn't get away until maybe like 3:30, you know. And I went, right, I'll go to barber's now. Went in and sat there from 3:45, and I was freaking out because I was there over an hour, and I had to text them and say, look, I'm gonna be late to record this podcast. How small of an issue is that? Like, it's, but for me, see, like, showing myself as a professional and stuff like that, like, I didn't want to leave because I thought a person, I'm the last person of the day and whatever, I don't want them to lose out in business. You know, all these wee things going through my head. But
so you're being pulled from both ends.
Yeah, and I was going, but now I look unprofessional, like, I'm letting these down, like, whereas, like, I was going, I'm going to be 15 minutes late here.
Yeah.
You know, if I look at that from the other side of things, that's a text somebody gets, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. You go, alright, no worries. But, like, in my head, that was the biggest deal in the world. And it took me half an hour before I went, Sean, in 6 months, you're not even going to remember that ever happened.
So, this is interesting, right? So there's kind of two parts to this. So it's like, the first part is the really, really good part about you as a person and your values as a person. And it's like, right, and that just kind of sums you up as a person and a professional and a whatever. So I don't want to let people down. I want to do everything right. I want to be on time for people. I want to accommodate people. I want to make sure that they feel welcome. All this.
Yeah.
And that's what you're really, really, really good at. And then the other side of it is that guilt, maybe the people pleasing, maybe if I don't do that, then X, Y, or Z might happen. And then that's just going into their heads and creating all these mad scenarios. Mm-hmm. And it's literally bringing it all back, whether it's that scenario or any. And by the way, I think it's important to note that you said twice there, like, how small of an issue it was. Mm-hmm. But there is no small issues, because that's what it made you feel a certain way. So say I had an issue, there's 3 of us in the room here, say 3 of us had issues and you 4, so there's 4 different issues. One person might have lost a family member, one person might have, give me an issue, Emil. Any issue.
Dropped his ice cream.
He might have dropped his ice cream. I might have turned up and been crap at this podcast today. Sean might have been late. So there's 4 different issues, but we all might be really, really, really anxious and feel like we're really missing out on something. So as a result of the incident, we feel the exact same way. So are we in a position to talk about our feelings and empathize with each other about our feelings? Yes, of course. Should we sit back and say, well, Eamon only dropped an ice cream, I fucking shit at podcast. Sean was late, and hold on a minute, there's someone over only after losing a family member, so that's all petty then. No. Should we sit back and compare our problems? No. So our issues, our incidents, no, it's the feelings, right? How do you feel about that? How do I feel about this? How does he or how does she, how are we all feeling here? Okay, so what is the best possible outcome for us to feel better about it? Now, obviously, we're going to grieve and things are going to, I'll probably use the wrong example there, but would that person feel better for being in this conversation and talking about how they're feeling and we're talking about how we're feeling? Absolutely. Would they feel worse if we're like, oh my God, that must be so terrible, and making them as out to have the worst problem in the world? Probably, because of being there. Yeah. So by us being respecting that's how you felt in that time, and I think that's really important. How we talk to people. Like, fuck's a game and it's only an ice cream, what are you talking about? Get over it. No, it's his ice cream and he loves ice cream. Let's respect that, how he feels. Do you know what I mean? You're only 15 minutes, but hold on, I respect because I know how professional you are, so that is a big deal. So I think that's a really important note just to say for anyone out there, it's just like respecting people for what they're saying to you, and don't tell them to wise up or get on with it, or fuck's sake, there's people far worse out there in the world. Maybe there is, but do they feel as anxious or as depressed or as uneasy as the other person in that moment? Maybe not. So let's respect how they feel. Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, and it's like the other part then for you then in that sort of scenario is to be honest, just being honest.
Yeah.
So if we were just like, boom, I'm honest straight away. This is what's happening. How many times have we like procrastinated and made a mountain out of a molehill instead of just being like, that happened straight away. I'm honest, bang, it's out. It's out there. Okay, so how I've let it go because of just being honest. Is there going to be maybe bad things as a result of it? Okay, that's fine. But if I've been honest about what's going on, then it can't really change much, you know. So, yeah, that was a good segment. What was that? Taking responsibility.
Yeah, that sort of sums that part up. The next bit is about, you know, community and friendships, and we've labelled it "Your vibe attracts your tribe."
Yeah, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think that probably the last time we done a podcast, I probably wasn't in this situation that I'm in now. In terms of meeting people, good people, relationships, friendships, different things. Just having a good network of people around me. And back to what we said there at the start, I think that if we have our values and we have our purpose, say, and this is what we talked about last week. So values, purpose, daily actions. So if that goes to that and goes to that and goes to that. So if we have, say at the bottom of that, so if we have values, purpose, and then like daily actions every day. So what are my values as a person, right? And then what is my purpose in life? So my values to be sort of empathetic, hardworking, to be compassionate, to show up for people, and don't ever ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. So back to sum that all up, it's like, don't tell me, show me. Show me, just show me. And we could split words here of, as I said there at the start about be given advice. We don't do that, but maybe by me doing things through action might help people. So them values. So my purpose then in life is to help people, to give back, to show people that we can have a better quality of life. And then daily actions. So how do I live every day? What is my day job? Exactly that. For let's face it, doing what I'm doing, the podcasting, the coaching, the mentoring, the public speaking, the workshops, the whatever else we're at, all sorts of bits and pieces. So they all meet up with each other. So by me doing that, let's be honest here now, by me doing that from the start of Let's Face It, have I felt lonely? Yes. Because did I know a lot of people were going, what the fuck's he doing now? Yes. Or what is that all about? That is an ego trip. That was the thing, yeah. Did I feel like I was losing people in terms of friends? Yes. Have I lost friends? Yes. Loads of things. Like, as I say friends, I mean, in people aren't watching, but what is that? Inverted commas friends.
You've lost people around you that were around you.
And close,
maybe not the right people.
And close people too.
Yeah.
Very, very close people, which has been hard, but they weren't in the triangle, Sean.
Yeah.
Right? So did I then meet, back to what we're saying, did I meet the sheep on the country road? Loads of times. But whenever I revert back to the triangle and feel like what I'm doing is the right thing to do, I believed somewhere inside me that someday that I will have good people around me who I have their back and they have my back if I keep doing what I'm doing. And it's probably to that now where I can safely say in the past 6, 7, 8 months my network of people is special, like very special, like unbelievable. And I feel so happy and lucky, and let's Americanise us a wee bit, because I think in Irish society we're like, stay in the corner. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm proud of within myself, is sticking by that, knowing that someday I'll be able to turn around and be like, I can call on him, her, and whenever I do call upon them, that they won't judge me, and they'll want whatever's best for me, and I want whatever's best for them, and there's no jealousy in the friendships. There's nothing. It's just we want what's best for each other, and it's holding each other accountable, and it feels really nice. It does. It feels so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and that really spoke to me about, like, you know, people who fall outside of that triangle, and it's sort of hard to accept that. I think when you're in a position where you know someone is outside of that triangle of values in your life, but you're not willing to accept that,
Yeah.
it tells you more about yourself. It tells you more about the fact that you're reliant upon their support. You don't have enough people in the triangle to get rid of someone who might not align with it, and you might come up with ways of, you know, or fool yourself into thinking that they are. So
making excuses for people,
yeah,
and that's an interesting point, because if I leave the triangle, or if I leave the group, then who am I going to have?
yeah,
And it's like that, and that's my point, because I've sat there for a long time being like, this is terrible. What the fuck am I doing all this for? I have no friends. Not that I've no friends. I think that's probably being too much. But that's how I felt.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's how I felt. I can't really put it any other way. And it's like teething. It's painful, and it's emotional, and you're like, I can't wait this fucking goes away. Or we'll just go back.
yeah.
We'll just go back in them circles, because it was good crack, like, and it distracted me from sitting here alone on a Saturday night feeling these fucking mad feelings.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad I pushed through it and was like, leave that WhatsApp group, leave it. And I feel like, not relief, but just nearly like a new sense of freedom.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it's also really good for anyone out there who is kinda, and I get loads of messages about it all the time, about friendships and relationships, and people being like, I just, basically what you said there, excuse me, I'm afraid to make a change, but as I just said there, like, nothing changes if nothing changes. So it's kind of the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Like, keeping doing the same things and getting the same results. Well, let's do something about it. So
It's like any change, you know, like,
yeah.
it's always a lot more comfortable to stick
Mm-hmm.
than to try and, if it's like playing a game of rounders. You know what I mean? You're starting on one way.
Should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, you don't know whether
Yeah.
you have enough time to move,
Yeah.
like, across. You don't know where you should. It's far more comfortable to stay where you are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't, or you shouldn't.
Yeah, and how do we know then? And it's sort of back to that gut feeling. That's sort of, I get a bad feeling about this. I get a bad gut feeling about being in X's company or Y's company, or what they're doing, or their actions, or their values, or how they speak about other people. Many times I've met people and all they're doing is just mouthing about other people, and you're going, fuck are they saying behind my back? You know, all these wee things, and it's just being probably more aware in terms of who you are as a person and what you actually want, and if sometimes we don't need to always fit other people's agendas. So yeah, it's interesting that, but I do believe that your vibe attracts your tribe, and if it doesn't in a day or 2 days or 3 days or fucking 3 months, it will. That's my message today. Like, that's my big message, that be patient about who you select as your close network of people, because having a good network of people can really bring you to places that you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So, like, I know we spent a lot of time talking about the negative communities, negative relationships.
Yeah.
And we've already touched on like high relationships and people standing by you, like, can build you up or make you more resilient or get you through specific scenarios. But what other benefit is there to having that community around you?
Not being judged is amazing. Not having to worry about what you say is amazing. Doing things that you love and not being afraid to say that this is what you want to do, because you know that they kind of have similar interests. Like,
being you.
Being me and being authentic and being... not having to put on a mask.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to be Donald who does this or does that or does... I can just be me. I don't need to pretend to be anyone. So... and there's loads of positives, Sean. Like, there's the positives are nearly, as I just said, they're that freedom. Like, sure, what's better than having a freedom or being able to spread your wings and live your life without having to worry about making a mistake, or worry about what other people think of you, or worry about... I'll give you an example. So, standing up for what you believe in. So, if I say there's a gym next door to here, right? So, say I went into that gym and it was full of people, and I stood there and sort of said, right, this is what I believe in, and this is where I'm at, and blah blah blah. And they all were like, "Get out! You're an idiot! Go away!" Blah blah blah. I would be okay about it, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, that's okay. Because I know that I'm surrounded by people who, when I go and meet them and tell them about my experience, they'll give me some sort of positive reinforcement. Or they'll be like, right, Donald, they have a point. They're right. And they're not saying that to put me down even more. They're saying it because, okay, Donald, them people in that gym have a point. So what can you do about it? How can you fix it? How can you become a better person? Right, let's do it. Let's learn from it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to get honesty, and I think it all boils down to honesty. How many friend groups or work people are being totally honest with us? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that they're the key positive sides to it, and yeah, it just feels nice. Like,
again, perspective. I think sometimes when you try and sort problems out in your own head, like, the most biased opinion sometimes can be your own.
100%.
So if you've the right people there that you bring a problem to,
yeah,
often they'll give you the
truth,
the truth, the neutral opinion on everything. And when you find somebody like that, it's so invaluable to have that around you
in our lives. But something that I like, something that it's something that means a lot. It is something that means a lot to me, Sean, because it's coming from a good place. And the hardest thing, as you said it there, the hardest thing I think for any human being to do is to look internal and to pick out their flaws.
Yeah.
But if you have people you trust and a good network of people who you help each other doing that with each other, not because they put you down or to put you in a corner, to help you grow and to be a better person, I think it's special. It's actually powerful. It's unbelievable. So Yeah, it's a big one for me. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and it's probably. I'm so happy that I didn't give in, because I wanted to give in loads of times. I did. And will I want to give in again loads of times? Probably, because I don't know what's around the next bendy road in Donegal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you just don't know what is around the corner. But do I feel equipped? Absolutely, absolutely, to deal with whatever's thrown at me because of my tribe.
Yeah.
So it's a big part of my life.
Something your community of people around you can, help you do is to feel yourself, as we said.
Yeah.
To open up, to get you out of your comfort zone, being vulnerable. And the next point we'll have is the power of that, the power of being vulnerable.
Well, I'll throw it back to you, Sean.
Yeah.
So you've sat here for 18 months, and probably over 18 months, I don't know what it is, and watched all the podcasts with someone sitting here, and I'll be honest, see, vulnerability and authenticity, they're probably buzzwords now. Mm-hmm. In the world that maybe we're in, and it's as we've talked about there for the last way at the start, even about action. Don't tell me, show me, and only my opinion, I feel like this room has witnessed some magical moments of vulnerability. What do you think? Even speak for your own brother, I know go ahead. What do you think? What do you think the power of vulnerability has been like? Let's talk about even the podcast.
So, in here, if you think back to episodes like Gareth Fox,
oh yeah,
where I used to were tearing up, just looking at each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that a bit mad? And another way, the way I phrased that at the start, it's coming out of it's losing the comfortability of that conversation. He took that safety net, he took the stabilizers off that conversation and just went, let's completely open ourselves up to each other.
Yeah.
And after that, I think that's probably the most vulnerable moment I've seen on here. And obviously, I mean, Jesus, there's been fantastic, sometimes tragic, stories of what people have experienced, what they've been through, how resilient they've been, and that obviously takes a lot of vulnerability. That puts you in a vulnerable place, having to share those stories and share who you are. But that moment for me was just everything was stripped bare, and there was the rest of the 20 minutes after that, it was just two people that knew each other now.
Yeah.
And I think that's all vulnerability is. It's a wall to break through.
Yeah.
And because once you've felt it, it's only trying to block your path. I mean, for me, getting up on stage, I play every week alongside Matt, and we know our set inside out. And I don't see sometimes I'm sitting in the bar, and if there's a TV in it, I'm playing along, watching Match of the Day as we're playing, and I'm an autopilot, just playing away. I couldn't care less that there's people dancing and there's people singing, and it doesn't faze me whatsoever. But then something will throw a spanner in the works, and Matt goes, I need to go to the toilet here. You do on your own. And even though I've done that a million times too, it's just there's a wee switch, and I feel a wee shake in my arm, and I notice that there's 100 people in the room now. I start thinking to myself I need to come to the front here. I need to come to the fore here, show up and make a performance of this. And for some reason, that actually pulls me down a wee bit. But then I get 2 minutes into a song, and then I start flying.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just feeling vulnerable.
So do you think
It's just
that
a weight.
do you like that? How does it make you feel?
I love when I overcome it.
So what's on the other side of vulnerability
Yeah.
in your experience?
It's, you know, elation. It's relief that I was able to do it. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll go, all right, here, I need to tune the guitar up first here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take my time, go get a glass of water. I'm trying to calm myself down, but really what I'm doing is I'm trying to put it off because I don't want to be vulnerable. I'm going, hopefully he's just quick and he comes back and then I don't have to do it.
Mm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel worse because I didn't do it.
Mm.
Because I think to myself, I could have.
Mm. It's interesting.
So even though that first half of the song, when I do go for it, might feel like hell,
Yeah.
the second half is like unbelievable.
Because you've stepped into...
And I near enough feel like saying to him when he comes back, I go, do you hear me here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
That was unbelievable.
but then when he comes back and I don't have to do it, I sort of go into my shell. And he just goes, I go, oh, you were quick. You know, and then just carry on and the next one. And I'm thinking about it.
Mm.
So it's crazy that it's tough, but feels fantastic to overcome.
And to step into it.
Yeah.
And the difference between anxiety and excitement is a big deep breath. I've seen that today.
Yeah.
Like that. Nah, not in all cases, but kind of like that. Stopping, deep breath. Right, what's really going on? Okay, boom. But, and that's a good. That's a good example. I just think that through the podcast and people being vulnerable and maybe me being vulnerable has created a kind of like a small ripple effect of them people being like, Jesus, sure, that's good to have them chats. Like, it's good to be ourselves. And I think by being vulnerable is a sign of resilience, is a sign of all these big words that people are throwing about as well, because whenever we can be that, then it's that journey into authenticity and being the best version of Sean McDonald or Donald Nugent, because if that's all we can be. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be, you know, the best at having a podcast, because how attainable is that? Is that in my control? You know, probably not. So, can I be the best version of me and strive towards the best version of me in anything that I'm doing? Yeah, of course I can. But how can I do that? And I think vulnerability has a massive part to play in it. So, if I came and done this podcast every week and sat and had 10 questions for every guest and sat here and asked them 10 questions and that was it, would that fill me up? Nah, I wouldn't. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. But by me turning up and having an idea of where I want the conversation to go and offering my own experiences and opening up with them and getting people on board on the podcast who I can then maybe put my insecurities and share my insecurities with them, for them to maybe share their insecurities with me, and for it to become an open and honest conversation.
Yeah.
I think vulnerability is the key part.
Well, here's the thing. On the topic of guests, I mean, there's I would say in a lot of podcasts, I mean, if you're getting guests in every week, you don't know who everybody is.
Yeah.
So there's this thing of like, I feel like hosts feel like they have to know that person inside out. So, like, ones who think they're doing great, they'll go and they'll do hours and hours of research.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, what about the the achievement you got in 2014, like
Yeah.
like that was really something because if you think back to when you done this in 2006, like even when you like, I think you can smell that.
Yeah.
Like, I made off. There's no harm in being prepared. There's no harm in being, but pretending.
Yeah.
Like, all this and like, I'm pretending like. No, what that is. It's again going back to it's putting that person up on a pedestal. It's like saying, I want this person to respect me. I want them to feel. But what I feel from your podcast and like and anyone that is a good podcast is when it's like, right, we don't know each other, but like, tell me what you're about. Like, what's your story? This is my story. Let's connect and like you find common ground and then you find out about each other along the way. Yeah,
and that's so important. And to be honest, like totally honest, I'm going to give away all my secrets. It's like I'm actually addicted. This is probably the wrong word to use in this podcast, but I am obsessed with Tommy Tiernan.
The
Tommy Tiernan show, and I think that there's Eamon giving us thumbs up. We love him. I love his sort of authenticity and how he approaches an interview and how he talks to people and how
he does that thing where he does know who it is until they walk out.
And I kind of love that. And it's like one of my dreams would be if I got an email from the BBC or something being like, we want you to do this. I'd be like, I would love that. Yeah. But anyway, I think that you're right. I think that could I be more prepared? Yes, that's on me. But do I think not having a script is the best thing that I ever done? Yeah, and it was actually Declan Lawn who's actually coming on the podcast this week. He taught me that in terms of being present and letting people talk, because within one answer you may be able to ask 10 questions within one answer. So don't be thinking like you need to get to the next question, because there may be substance in what they're actually saying for that one answer. So that's something that I love that, and I love the good chats. And to be honest with you, Sean, I actually forget that there's a camera. It's mad. So people say to me, how do you do that podcast in front of that camera? And is that not really awkward? No, I genuinely forget. See, after like.
But do you have moments where you go away and you go, should I maybe say to Sean about cutting that wee bit?
Every week. Yeah. I want to cut stuff in the podcast every week. And see, whenever on a Friday or whatever, whenever you send it across to me, I do be anxious. Because like at the end of the day, there's power and vulnerability, there's strength and vulnerability, but showing your true colours isn't easy. Especially whenever you're talking about your feelings and talking about. Very, very often I talk about what I'm good at, like. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about my insecurities, I'm talking about my flaws and my warts or whatever. So it's like, and some things that I've done, some things I'm not proud of, some things that are going on in my life that, like me and Danielle spoke about last week. Fuck, it was terrible. But has it made me a better person? Absolutely, absolutely, 1,000,000%.
And you've got that mail from West Belfast thing of like you're like every time you come away you're like, who do I think I am doing this?
100%. Like, and that's why I even said they're about Americanizing this thing. Because it's true. Like I live in Andytown, like, do you know what I mean? And in a 1-bedroom flat. Yeah. Like I'm like essentially like whenever from the for exterior possessions, do I have a lot? No. But internal, how do I feel? And I probably feel like what a millionaire feels.
Yeah.
On the external of how I feel in the internal. I feel so grateful. I feel so lucky. I feel so connected. I feel so in touch with myself. And I couldn't put a price on that. So I don't care. I used to be like, oh my God, walking into the gym, Jesus, they probably heard my podcast last week. Yeah. And it's actually funny because loads of people comes up now and be like, oh, and I'd be like, that's class. I think that's class, because my podcast isn't a comedian's podcast. It's not like I watch all your podcasts, like all of them, and I think that like I'm sitting there and I watch it for like downtime. I watch it to switch off. And that's probably and for a laugh, right? So and that's probably how most people do. People watching this every week is sometimes it feels like a fucking therapy session. It does, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? It can be it's heavy. So do you watch it to switch off? Probably not, because you're probably more engaged. There's not many laughs. There's more. It's more trying to learn and off other people and what they're doing and dealing with and going through, and it's heavy, like.
Yeah.
So am I gonna have loads of people coming up and being like, it's on? No, probably not, because there's still a taboo, especially in West Belfast, about people talking about their feelings. So whenever I'm walking up the road and there's kids and teenagers and my sort of targeted audience, I feel like, being like, here, I watch your podcast and it's class, I'm like, job done, because there's young lads or young girls here getting something from this and want to change something in their lives, or want to break the cycle that we're in, and I think that's so important. So that's what it's all about, and that's why I love being vulnerable, because it's not about me. So leave your ego at the door here, Donald, and come in here and be the best version of you. Like, I think that gets the best out of me, and also kind of creates that ripple effect of helping other people. Like, so they are my 4 key lessons and learnings of recovery.
Before you finish,
yeah.
like, how's that sentence sound? Like, 4 years.
I know, mate.
How's that make you feel?
It makes me. Do you know what, Sean? Sometimes I have to look back and put things in. You mentioned the word perspective a few times throughout the podcast there. Me putting things in perspective and being like, because of course, would I want more? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Would I love to be, I don't know, silly things, earning more money? Of course. But like, even in sporting sense, and we spoke about this, like, would I want to be playing every week for Antrim and stuff? Like, of course. Like, does my ego get in the way in terms of going, fuck, this is doing my, yes. But whenever I sit back and look around me and be like, see, no joke, this time 4.5 years ago, like, today is just like, I know I came in this morning the way we started off, and I had a bit of something happened this morning, family thing, and it's like, there are small problems compared to what was going on 4.5 years ago. 4.5 years ago, you had to say to me, Donald, this is what you had to be dealing with, and someone would actually give you the responsibility to deal with that. I'd be like, ways up, sure, I'm in Egypt, who the fuck would ask me for anything? So, perspective, I am so happy of the journey that I've been on. I'm proud of myself, and have I made mistakes? Yes, I've made lots of mistakes in the last 4.5 years, but
And you probably still are.
and I'll make loads more mistakes. But if I keep trying to just put one foot in front of the other and bring a few people along with me who wants to come along in the journey of their journey of self-discovery or whatever, then let's do it, because it's mental. It's absolutely mental, and I wouldn't change any of it for the world. I wouldn't. Even the days where I don't want to do anything. Do you know what I mean? The days where you're like, Jesus, what am I doing all this for? Is it even worth it? Because of the things that I've left behind. It outweighs it all, because it is amazing. Some journey, like, and it's really, and I'm more happy because other people have started the journey as a result of it. That's what makes me more happier, and that probably leads me on to a question. I have a few questions. I'll not, but Tony O'Neill, who I started working with from our event, he actually says, do you find it hard to prioritise yourself now that you're a gateway to helping others? And that is, do you know what? Do I find it hard to prioritise? Yes, because I'm constantly, well, I was there for a long time, probably running and you know, making sure other people's cups were filled up before my cup was filled up. So I need to stop. Not that I need to stop, I'm aware of that. So I've kind of changed the narrative and filling up my own cup before I help other people. So Probably, Tony. I probably I found that a difficulty in the last 4.5 years in terms of prioritising myself, especially what we're working on, Tony, with lifestyle and nutrition. And you're going to come on and talk about that and talk. Again, I'm going to be vulnerable with that stuff because it's a big, not a big issue. It's just something that maybe like comfort eating and stuff like that I do. So we're going to talk about that, Tony, as well. So. But I think that I've finally realised that I need to put myself first before helping other people. Yeah, there's a few more, but I think we've went through most of them today. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah,
great there.
I'm happy with that. Sean, are you happy?
Yeah, we're an hour and 10 minutes in.
Was it? Jesus, was that an hour? I was only going to do a half an hour. But anyway, thanks very much for everyone for listening. If you, I'll mention it more in the podcast we'll do and we'll put it up on Instagram and all that crack. But we're launching our one-to-one coaching and mentoring. I'm launching that in the next week or two publicly. So if you're listening and like the sound of what we're talking about and the direction, and you're feeling a wee bit lost and confused and maybe need a bit of an accountability, or maybe want to, I don't know, change your career path, or whether it's in a sporting sense or performance or lifestyle or personal development, I'm offering that service now, one-to-one, and we're also going to be starting up a weekly group, 6-week group program with different topics every week, so that'll be starting in the next couple of weeks as well. So if you're interested in any of that, do drop me a message. Our website will be finished whenever Terry comes back from holiday, so well, a couple of weeks after he comes back from holiday, we'll not be that hard on him. Yeah, and that's going to get going as well. So I'm really looking forward to that and stepping into that. So, yeah, I was away. That's what I was doing on the break of our podcast there. I was away working on myself and getting the right qualifications and finishing off certain things. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, and keep it going. And with other wee things happening, with Join the Movement, Move Clothing and stuff like that. So I'm actually going up to see them as tomorrow. They were in contact about doing things. Don't think there's anything else happening. There's the Freshly Prepped is the meal company. They're coming on board to support me in my next step of nutrition and all that crack. So Tony O'Neill's going to be on talking about that too. But we're starting up a brand partnership with them, which is really exciting. So I'll be able to show you what I'm eating and all that crack. I think that's it. If anything else, do you want to say anything, Eamon? What thing there? What? Take your pick. Oh, I take your pick. If you were to pick something out, what would you want it to be, Emo? I'll write them out and put them in. So we'll play that game after. If someone wins, then they get a free top. And that's why you're the chairman. See you later, folks. Thanks very much. I'll see you all next week. You're classy, Emo.